Hi everyone. So as promised today I am trying to make a tutorial to my cover of How Did You Love? Uh, I think it's only fair if I preface this by saying, again, I am a student who is trying to learn ASL and using these video projects that I do to help practice my skills and my speed and expand my personal vocabulary. But that does not make me an expert or right necessarily. I think I get some things right, but there are things I'm still learning and conceptually like growing in, of course. So I can maybe point you the right direction, but if you really want to like be sure you're signing something correctly, you should always, of course, check the signs yourself and do your own research on sign language, and preferably ask a deaf person if you know one. But because I know that not everybody is able to like connect with deaf people a lot, especially about learning the language in particular, I do think that uh, it can be a little bit helpful sometimes to get input from other students or teachers if you happen to have a teacher. So with that said, I'll give you my best shot. And since it's a tutorial, I'm going to give you a couple different ways to say some of the stuff. And since my concept of sign language is always growing, especially of American Sign Language, which is not the only sign language if you didn't know. There's many sign languages. There's a couple different ways even to use American Sign Language's signs. There's SEE, which is signing exact English, which is a huge pain in the neck. But some deaf people prefer it because they want to get the more of the English experience because they might be using it to like study with, or they may be later in life deaf people who learned how to sign exact English because it was easier for them to remember that way. It depends. There's PSE, which is Pidgin Sign Language. That means it's a little more ASL, but the grammar is still mostly English. I've seen many deaf people use this to communicate with their hearing friends or family, or with their students. I personally prefer that because I think it makes it a little easier for intercommunication both ways, and it's not as complicated as signing exact English. But the goal of interpreting is to get it as close to real ASL as possible, though with some subjects that's really hard. So you may find yourself going a little more into PSC just because it's so... There may not be a sign for everything, so you have to rely more on finger spelling. But when possible, you should try to rely on the concept. If you want to know my exact qualifications, which aren't a lot, I grew up a hearing person in a hearing family, so I'm not a coda. I have been studying ASL off and on for about 11 years, and seriously studying it for about 5, nearly 6. And I'm in the advanced interpreting class in the interpreting course at my school. That does not mean I'm fluent. None of my classmates are fluent. At that level, you are able to carry a conversation pretty easily. You can sign some difficult concepts, but you are not proficient. There's still a couple more years usually of practice and kind of like working with mentors, working with more professional interpreters so that you can kind of learn how it works and make connections. I'm fortunate to go to a college that has a lot of resources, but we still do have to do a lot of outside work. So for those of you who are new and haven't watched any of my tutorials before and are newer to the channel, that's my history with sign language. I've never claimed to be an expert. In my description, I've never said that, so I hope that's not what you were expecting. I am, like I said, mostly making these videos so that I can get better and hopefully to inspire some other people to take an interest in the language, because it is a very beautiful language and I really enjoy using it, but no, I'm not fluent. I also enjoy Spanish, French, and Latin. I know a little bit of all those languages. I'm not fluent in them either. So now that I've given you my background here, we can start the tutorial. And again, this is more of a suggestion, not a this is exactly the right way to do it. But I mean, I am a little bit more familiar with how people do sign a lot of things since I've been taking the courses, so I can give you like what I think like my professors would say, and from there, it's kind of up to you if you want to look into it more. So with that said, let's get started on the song. Alright, so as usual, I'm going to do line by line, and then try to put it together for you so you can follow along. I used to close caption my videos a lot, and I know I need to get caught up on that, but for now the video's not closed captioned, so I'm just going to be saying the lines. I hope that's okay. Okay, so the first line of this song, and I love this song, by the way, is... You can have the sound of 1,000 voices calling your name. You can have the light of the world blind you or bathe you in grace. I had to look up the lyrics to this song. I like Shinedown, but they don't articulate the most clearly. And sometimes the lyric videos I found were actually wrong. So, yeah, it's blind you, bathe you in grace. Okay, so for the first half of that, you can have the sound of 1,000 voices calling your name. Again, there's a couple different ways to try to do this. So the more English way is what we tend to call literal, in the interpreting courses, which just means that you're trying to sign literally what it said, pretty much the same way it was said, with maybe a little bit of ASL, like, thrown in if you're comfortable enough with it. And literal signing is where everyone starts who didn't grow up using sign language. So it's okay if that's all you know how to do at your level if you're not familiar with it, because by and large, I won't say every deaf person I've ever interacted with understood me completely. Like, nah, I won't go that far. Most of them are pretty used to people like doing that, and like, you shouldn't be aiming for it, but if that's all you know, I mean, don't let that stop you from trying to interact. And for the purpose of this song, I'll show you that way, and then I'll see if I can, like, try to, like, do something a little bit more conceptual for the people who are more interested in that. So if the reason you do songs, like, it is just, like, because you want to, like, memorize signs, I think it's okay to be literal. It's not really good interpretation, though, which is why I'm explaining the difference. But like I said, if you just want to start practicing and that's all you can do, I don't see a problem with that. But you want to be aiming for, of course, getting better down the line. So, okay, so for the sound of 1,000 voices, if I literally sign this in English, well, I probably couldn't even do it because there's a lot of tiny little signs that I don't actually know. But it would be sound, 1,000 voices, and you could do like yelling, calling, or speaking if you don't want to put in the yelling, your name. And I believe that is what I did in the video because I thought I didn't really think there's a way that would be super clear if I simplified it too much. But a better way in ASL, if you don't want to follow English grammar, is to start with the 1,000 voices. So I forget whether the number or I want to say like the voices would come first. Voices, 1,000. Sometimes the order doesn't matter as much. It depends on what kind of sentence you're doing. So, voices, 1,000. Your name. Call. You hear. Okay, and you may be wondering if you're new to sign language, why did that seem like it was backwards? Well, in sign language, true sign language, I should say, not signing exact English and not PSE, but in the more pure ASL, there's a certain order. I don't really know anybody who actually follows this order who's not a native speaker, like all the time, but it's the goal we're supposed to get to. I guess professional interpreters can do it, but like I said, most of the students I know don't do it yet, but that's what we're trying to learn how to do. So, it's usually for something like this, the topic would come first, then the description and the action, which is why it would be voice, because that's the topic. 1,000, because technically a number is a description. Action, well, yeah, hang on a second. You might get away with, like, calling, like, the action being first your name, but technically your name is also a topic. So it would probably be better to say your name than call. That's my best shot at that. You can see why I tend to lean more towards PSE for the interpretations, because with songs, this is simpler. I see a lot of people lean more on PSE for songs. I've seen a couple people lean more into ASL, and they lean so into ASL that it doesn't even, like, to me, even look quite like ASL anymore. Like, it's very, very descriptive, and there's nothing wrong with that, of course. Like, I mean, it's not really my place to, like, make that call, like, whether that's right or not. Actually, I think it probably looks better that way. It's just hard to remember, like, if you're not used to it. That's why I lean more towards PSE, you know, which I've talked about, I think, in other videos, that I lean more towards PSE. Alright, if I keep explaining everything this much, this video is going to take, like, 2 hours, so I better speed it up. Okay, the next line. Light of the world, blind you, bathe you in grace. Alright, I struggled with this line when I was trying to think of a way to show it, because I'm like, how do you even explain that in English? The light of the world is blinding you, but it's also bathing you in grace. I love the song, and I think I understand what it's saying, but wow. So I went more literal. Light of the world, blind you, wash you with grace. I didn't have the most time to think about it on the spot, and I'm not like, okay, that probably didn't really make any sense. Again, though, literal, sure. You probably could do it that way. I don't know if I'd still use this. The time I didn't think of, like, a better way to do it. But it would be probably better. I mean, better, the hard word to use, but I'll say, like, more figuratively, more conceptually. To say light, I mean, you can still say light of the world. Then you, blind, and you could do like this for blind and bathe you. And then as for grace, I don't know, it's hard to, like, think, like, what is grace being here? Grace, mercy, kindness. If you want to go with, like, literally, like, grace, which I believe is signed like this, though it has been a while since I've seen it, or mercy, which is kind of the same thing, or even happiness, if you want to take it way, like, that way. Grace is usually a religious concept, so it can be interpreted as a religious concept, or you could interpret it just as, like I said, maybe happiness. So, light of the world, then where do you fit grace in there? And I'm going to admit I don't really know the right answer to this. I chose to just kind of put it at the end because it was simpler for me. I would guess that you would probably put it more in the middle, like with the topics. If I had to guess what the more correct ASL way to do it would be. You know, I'm trying to think, like, if there's a way to just, like, reorganize this entire sentence. Because what you want to, like, go for is, like, think, like, what is this really saying? It's saying that grace, and the light of the world it basically say it can envelop you, right? Like, it'll bathe you, it'll envelop you. So, if you want to take this way, way off the beaten path of what the English is saying and way, way more into just, like, what it really means, then we could just scrap, like, the specific words and just think, like, concept. And I'm not, again, at my level, not very used to doing this, but from what I've been told, that the goal of that would be more aiming towards showing that, the light and the grace like are making you feel good, right? So in that case, you could say you can feel good. Why? Or because the world's light and grace are filling you up or washing over you, right? Now, I will admit I would probably not remember to say that if I was put on the spot, because my brain is still way more in English as a student than it is in ASL, but I believe that would be better. I'll just put it that way. Alright, I'm going to move on from that line because that line is really hard. Let's see if the next line's a little bit easier. I did make some mistakes with the way I shape my hands for that section. Alright, I don't see so easily what you hold in your hand. Again, I went literal, because again, that's more my comfort level. But if I was to think, like about it, I probably wouldn't do that if I was actually trying to like really do a full ASL interpretation. So for literal, it was, I don't see easily what you're holding in your hand. And I wouldn't even use like this for holding upon second thought, because it's not the right concept. Be more like in your hand, what's there, right? What you're holding in your hand. Yeah, I do make a lot of mistakes when I'm trying to like remember what I was planning to do, because yeah. Anyway, so literal. Another way would be to just again scrap like your English wording and think, what does it really mean? It means that I don't see like what you really mean, right? Because what does it mean to what you hold in your hand, like the cards in your hand, right? That's probably what it's saying. So I don't understand or see, if you want to say it, I would say understand is better, what you're hiding, or your feelings, your real feelings. You could say your real feelings. You could say the truth. I mean, you could do actually this line a lot of different ways. So like, have fun with it. Think about all the different ways you could restate that. Your true colors. I don't know if sign language that actually makes sense. I don't know if that's a phrase. But your, basically your feelings, your thoughts that are real. That's what you would be going for. Okay, and now for the next line. Castles crumble, kingdoms fall and turn into sand. Now, this is like both my least and most favorite thing about trying to translate songs into sign language, is that on one hand, sign language is already super picture-like in the way that it works. So you'd think that when there's imagery like this in a song, that would be easy to do. The problem is that even though you can literally say it, and like maybe someone who knows sign would see what you were literally saying, they may not know what it actually is supposed to mean in the song, because that's not an expression in ASL. Now, if you're familiar with the expression castles fall, or castles crumble and kingdoms fall, turn to sand, which is not even a commonly used expression, but most of us would understand it to mean that success, right, of people ends. It's destroyed. Kingdoms don't last, right? They turn to sand means like they fade away. So I did literally basically this is what I usually do for castles. It's supposed to show like the middle and the towers. If this is the right sign, I'm not sure. I think I did look it up once. The reason I do it this way is because I think the shape is easy to recognize, and there's not always really a singular sign for something, and sometimes you do kind of just have to use classifiers. This is the C classifier, which I would be using to try to show like the round big pillars um, like the big, like middle, the other round pillars, because that's most people's idea of a castle in the West, not in the East. But as American Sign Language, I'm gonna like rely more on Western imagery. It's just gonna be how it is. But if you did want to try to like take a shot at doing this in a different kind of sign language, if that's what they speak where you live, you have my like full like support. Like you go for it. I would be curious actually to see how to sign castle in like Japanese sign language, because I know that that's a bit more popular, at least since the movie Kono Katashi came out. I'm sure I butchered pronouncing that, but oh well. So that's castle. So then I would just say crumble, like basically it fell in. And then kingdom is king. I know at least this one because it's pretty simple to remember. This would be like land. So if you put together king, land, or domain. Sorry, you can't really see like my waist. The king is supposed to go all the way down to your hip. It's probably because I'm sitting down, but I wasn't going to stand for like a whole 40-minute video. Probably longer, actually. So kingdoms fail. You could say fail, or you could say they're destroyed. And this would be dissolve or fade away. And it also looks like sand. And I think in the video I've ended it with sand, so it's like sand. And I'll say I think that that's an okay translation if it's the most you know. I don't know if the concept comes across, but I think most people would understand that a castle crumbling in a kingdom, failing and fading away, that's a bad thing, right? Even if they don't get like the full context of it, meaning basically the things that man creates will eventually disappear. Now, if you want to, again, scrap like the English completely, you could just say like man's homes will be destroyed, or will be gone, or will fade away. You know, or even are, if you just want to refer to human beings as all of us, are things that we build will be gone, or destroyed, or even will become sand. Again, not fluent, but to me, at least, if I was to see that, I would think in sign language that would make sense. So that is coming from, again, a hearing English speaker, but I'm like, I think I would get that. Alright, next line. I'm gonna need a second to check this line. Okay, you know what? I think the lyric video I was using was wrong, because I signed buy it, and that's not right. It is fight it. So, sorry about that. I guess I should be checking my lyric videos before I use them. That was partly my bad and partly their bad, I guess. Alright. So let's correct it. Let's like do this the right way. You can be an angel of mercy or given to hate. Alright, so angel of mercy. I think most people who are religious understand what an angel of mercy is. It's an angel who shows mercy, right? I mean, it's kind of obvious. However, it can mean a person who is making mercy be enacted. So you'll have, again, a couple options. This is angel. I believe, as the last time I looked it up, this is angel. I don't know any other signs for angel. Another option could be to finger spell if you think that this will be confused for wings. But I do think as long as the context is religious, the average person would guess this is angel, because it's pretty common, you know, in church dances and stuff for people to use motions, and this would definitely look like angel. Don't do this. The reason not to do that is because it takes up way too much space, and if you're signing, you don't want to hit somebody next to you. So, like, there's like a rectangle you're supposed to sign in that they teach us about in class. Try to keep it about here, if you can. There's a couple signs that might be a little outside that, but it's like about like 2 to 3 foot radius around your diameter. Here is where you don't want to be like hitting the person next to you, because sometimes you are sighting in close quarters, and nobody wants to like do this if there's people like walking by around them, or there could be even a projector. So yeah, just keep in mind that's why most signs are in this area of your body. Like I said, there are exceptions, but I'm not going to go into them right now. So, angel, and then this is mercy. And I have signed it like this. Like this. I think, like, you would probably still look pretty similar, but I guess it is supposed to be a bit more diagonal. I believe I've seen people do it more in the center, but I don't know. I looked it up, and it was more like diagonal, so I'm going to do it that way. Given to hate. Alright, I assigned surrender to hate. So this is surrender, give up, quit, hate. Yeah, make sure you make the face. Very important. Given to hate. However, again, let's look at the concept. You can show mercy, or just you can be merciful, or hate can overcome you. And for this, you would definitely like switch your body if you're gonna do that the first way anyway. Always like rotate your body if you're doing a sentence that's or, has or in it, or and probably but, though I'm not as sure about the context of that one, because that shows two dividing concepts in sign language. If you're familiar with English grammar, it's like when you have dependent clauses or independent clauses that are joined by a conjunction. If you didn't pay attention in grammar class, I don't think that explanation helped, but I'm a writing tutor, so. Alright, so you can be merciful, or hate can overwhelm you. I would probably lean more towards that translation if I was going for the more ASL one. Though again, it's probably more PSC. I should probably stop saying that. Like let's just like acknowledge, just like for the rest of the video, that most of what I say is going to be more PSC probably than ASL. And try to stop reminding you of it. Alright, you can try to fight it just like every other careless mistake. I will admit I think I messed this line up in my video. I was kind of like not sure how to do it. Alright, so I was like try to fight it, although I think I signed the wrong thing because the lyric video I was using. Like every other like mistake. So careless. I don't believe there's really a sign for careless in of itself. You could say not careful, or you could say awkward, or stupid. I'd probably go stupid, like stupid mistake, stupid moronic, that kind of thing, like tiny brain mistake. So, but here is the difficulty with this song in particular. Try to fight it. We're not actually told what it is. So that leaves the translator with a bit of a problem. We might have a guess what they're saying, but we don't actually know. So I'm going to tell you what my teachers and other mentors have told me. Just take your best shot. Pick a meaning and go with it. Is that the perfect solution? No, but you can't always stop and ask someone what they actually mean, especially if this song is already recorded. I was given the advice to also try to research what the song is about. Now, I think we're all familiar that this song is about how love is important. And I believe these opening verses are about all the other ways you can approach success. So, let's take that context. If the mistake is careless and you're trying to fight your careless mistakes, it means that you're trying to approach perfection and you don't want those mistakes to get in your way. Okay. So how would you sign that? Well, I guess you could sign you want perfection, not stupid mistakes. I don't feel like that's the best way to translate this, but I mean, if I didn't have a better idea, I guess that would still kind of give you the right idea. Uh, if you have more time to think about it, though, like we could try to get more creative. Like I said, the literal, try to fight it. Maybe like try to fight. I think I would say try to fight failure, and then just every stupid mistake. That might work. That might work. And maybe for a third option, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you could resist, like, stupid mistakes. All right, let's move on. That was a tough line. All right, how do you justify I'm mystified by the ways of your heart? With a million lies, the truth will rise to tear you apart. Love that. I love that line. Okay, so how do you justify? Justify or judge? Probably not the best sign. I think it's the one I used, but on second thought, I don't know. Um, I think I would go with how do you decide it's right? Yeah. I'll just leave that one there. I think that's probably okay. I'm mystified by the ways of your heart. Your heart confuses me. That would work. Or what's inside your heart confuses me. So this is heart. You can do this, this, and I believe this is more like heartbeat. I think there's one more way to do heart, but I don't remember what it is. I use this in songs usually because I use this to mean like your heart as in your feelings, and I do believe that's more how you use this one, and this is just your heart as in the body part. Though that would really be more here if we're being technical. But most people sign it more to the side. So your emotional heart, right, confuses me. I think I'll leave that lying there too. You could branch out and think like, what does that really mean? Like, how you like do things, like, or what you feel is like right. I don't understand. Or instead of confused, you could say, I just don't understand your heart. In that case, I don't understand your heart. That's the more PSC. Your heart, I don't understand is more ASL. With a million lies, the truth will rise to tear you apart. Alright, I went very literal. Million. I recently saw somebody sign million as just M. I wouldn't prefer that personally because that could mean a lot of things. I mean, if I just see someone shaking an M, I'm going to think, is that meter or another word that starts with M, or is it million? But I guess normally it's million. I've always signed it like this. I think this is probably the older way to do it. Unfortunately, I don't know if everybody recognizes this sign because it does look very similar to some other signs. So if you want to go with this, fine. Or you could scrap the million part and just say many. Okay, so many, million, million, lies. Lie. And I'll say, like, I would probably put in a but truth will destroy them. PSE. More ASL. Truth destroy a million lies. Probably. Or, since it does say tear you apart, then you could throw in that. Like, the truth will destroy your million or many lies. Whoa, I started using this sign for whoa. I used to finger spell it, but I liked this better. This means wow, amazing, no way, and it can mean whoa. Alright, let's look at the first part of the chorus. No one gets out alive. Every day is do or die. The one thing you leave behind is how did you love? How did you love? Alright, I actually like the way I did this in the video, so I think I might keep it that way. No one escapes alive or life. If you want to do it a different way, you could say nobody lives forever. Every day is do or die. Alright, so for this I did every day. This is the sign for every day. Careful, there are other signs that are similar to this. It means something very different. And then I did do. You have your C hand shapes and you go like this. I was doing it to the side because again I was showing the or by moving my body. So do or die. I think that is again a okay translation. Every day decide life or death might also work. And again, you can play with this. But try to think about what you're really trying to say. The one thing you leave behind is how did you love? How did you love? This is thing. I admit I rely on this sign more than I should because I rarely ever see it used. A lot of times I'm just not sure what to replace it with. So again, that is definitely more PSE. You could scrap the word thing. Like what you leave. Okay, I use this sign for leave. I now think this is probably the wrong sign. This is what leave is and you're literally leaving. I think you can more like say leave. Or maybe not even use leave. Like maybe say like what's still here. Like what's here or what continues. Maybe continues would be better. Is your love. So yeah, okay, so if you're gonna say like what continues is your love or how you loved, that's probably how I would say suggest to do that. I'm trying to think if there's even another way I could think to say that, but it's not coming to mind. So let's just move on. Alright, I really like this next line too. It's not what you believe, those prayers will make you bleed. Alright, I'm not sure quite how to take this with Shinedown. At first I thought that they're saying that love is not what you believe. But now I think they might actually be saying that it's not what you believe that counts. Because those prayers just make you bleed. But while you're on your knees, how did you love? So I think the concept of this is, again, you need to understand that to be able to sign it. So to unpack this from a Christian perspective, I don't know if they are Christian, but it is a very Christian language, so I'm going to use a Christian perspective. It's saying that, as the Bible teaches, that it does not matter how many religious acts you do, if you can pray, like all and prophesy and do all the fancy things, it's how you love that really matters, right? And it's also like not if you have all the knowledge, right? So, as a Christian, I could have a couple different ways to sign this without truly changing the meaning. I could say, it doesn't matter, like, what you know. Praying, like, hurt you. But while you pray, or while you kneel, if I wanted to keep kneel, like, on your knees, this is kneel. This is bow. This is kneel. So it depends on how you want to do it. You could say this, but I believe this is closer to this song. Then, how did you love? How did you love? I have questioned whether this is the best way to say how did you love, but I think it's okay. This is like how for like how are you? How do you feel? So how did you love, I would think, would still make sense. But I mean, if anybody who's more proficient than me can think of a better way to ask that, I'd be happy to hear it. Alright, you could also say what you believe doesn't matter. I think I signed it's not what you believe. I think that's just too many signs now that I'm thinking about it. If you prefer to take the English because you just want to like learn more signs, then fine. That's not what you believe. I use this for believe. I think this is a little old-fashioned. A lot of people, I think, just do it a little differently now. Or you can do trust. But again, so if you think it's saying like it's not what you believe, like as in it's not what you believe it is, then this makes more sense. But if you're saying it's not what you believe doesn't matter, then it's like it doesn't matter your belief or your faith. Alright, I think we're done with the chorus. Alright, nothing ever feels quite the same when you are what you dreamed. I can tell you right now, unless you're going for SEE, don't ever use words like quite when you're trying to sign because it will just mess you up. So nothing ever feels quite the same. Also, by the way, you don't use the word the. This is the, I believe, in SEE, though I haven't used it much, but I would never use it. Nothing ever feels quite the same when you are what you dreamed. So what I did, nothing feels the same when or the time you become what you dreamed, envisioned. So there's a few different ways you can say dream. This is like if you have a dream or a vision, and I think in a goal, if I'm not mistaken. I believe this is just if you're literally dreaming while you're asleep. And I think there's some other ways to do it, but those are the two I remember. I don't love that translation. So, I mean, how else would you do it? Like, you become who you wanted, but nothing feels the same. I don't even know if I like that any better. This is a hard one because it's kind of mixing some English, like, metaphors. So finding a sign language equivalent's hard when it's already, like, basically two English concepts mixed together. You want to take out, like, the nothing, that it's like, you won't feel the same when you become who, you dreamed. So I don't even know who. Like, I don't even know if that's right. This, like I said, this is very tricky. So if all else fails, maybe just when your goal, when you have success. So you won't feel like you expected, maybe. That might work. When your goal you achieve, or when you are successful. Right. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do, so let's move on. Alright, you'll never look at anything the same when you see what I see. This is one of those times where you might be lucky that in sign language, I think this is a little simpler than in English. Because that's a lot of words, but in sign language, I think you could be able to break this down. So you won't look at anything the same when you see what I see. Alright, so this is another one where I think you should do, like, the ending first. I think, again, I went more literal. You will never look the same when you see what I see. But I would not recommend doing that if you really want to get closer to ASL. So, let's, like, think. Your opinion, this is opinion, will change if you see, like, maybe, like, my vision. That's still not very ASL. So my vision will change your opinion. or your thoughts, even. Or maybe just my vision will change your vision. I think perception would be better. I just don't know that word. Or if there even is a sign for that word. Alright, how we forget ourselves, lose our way from the cradle to the grave. Alright, this is identity. So, I believe I was more like I just messed this line up. That was one of the times where I tripped. Or choked, really. Alright, how we forget ourselves or lose our way from the cradle to the grave. I'm just gonna do what I think I should have done. We forget our identities from birth to death. And, or, I think even more so, maybe birth to death, we forget our identities. And I think that's really all I would suggest for that. You could find a different way to do it, I think, but for me, that'd be the simplest way. Alright, you can't replicate or duplicate, gotta find your own way. So for that, I was like, you can't, copy or, be even. So replicate, duplicate, in sign language, those are basically the same thing, just like in English, they're basically the same thing, but I didn't just want to sign copy twice. So I thought, well, let's think of another thing that duplicate is. It's supposed to be an equal to, the original. So you have a copy, a replica, or you have a duplicate, which is an equal. So can't copy or equal. Have to find your own way. Okay, find your way. This is literally find a road. I think that's okay. Always been difficult for me to think of a different way to say the concept of finding your own way. I'd love to hear a professional's opinion on this. But my best guess would be if you don't want to do it literally, then it's you gotta have to decide. You need to decide for yourself. As you can see, that is also a lot simpler. So sometimes my concern is that using less signs also won't match the beat of the song. But you can always either drag them out a little if you're concerned about it, or maybe just add a little bit to it. You decide your actions if you really want to make it longer. Usually simpler is better. Alright, so then the choruses again, I already did that one. So, okay. That means I just have the bridge left. Otherwise, I did forget to say, if you want to just keep the line, those prayers will make you bleed and still use blood, which may not be the best idea, but if you want to go that way, I can tell you, one sign for blood is this. And I have seen this used before, in medical videos. Another is this. I don't know if this is preferred maybe for more general bleeding, or if it was just that person's preference. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is there is more than one way to say it. So, and I use this sign for make, or it's make cause. So prayers cause you to bleed. I'll say this. Whether or not it's confusing in ASL, it's probably just as confusing already in English as to what that's supposed to mean. So we'll all be equally confused. I wouldn't sweat that line too much because of that. Alright, so this is no cross to bury, or ain't no cross to bury, where the judge and jury. I have to say, I saw people say that it was no cross to carry, and I thought I was hearing bury, and I looked up the official lyrics. It says bury, so I was vindicated. Plus it rhymes. So, alright, to explain why I translated this the way I did, I translated literally. This is no cross to bury. This is bury. This is grave, but the act of burying is this. So yeah, I said that literally. I still would go with saying that might be okay. Uh, just because the amount of time it would take to explain this is, I'm not sure you'd have that much time in the song because it's a very fast line. Because what this really means is, again, it's a reference to carrying your cross, the Christian concept, and that means to take up your daily sufferings. But he's saying not to bury it. So he's saying this is a cross that you should not be burying. He's saying that this isn't suffering you should be trying to get out of. Like, with How Did You Love? This is what you should be doing. Right? Now, how the heck do you sign that fast enough? So, again, either you scrap the imagery and just say this is not a responsibility to forget or to get rid of or even to cancel, but this, I don't know, I feel like that this doesn't really work, but again, or to escape, to run away from. A lot of different ways you could do it. So, yeah, responsibility, you can use like the R's, or you can just do this. I prefer to use the R's when I mean responsibility, and this when I just mean burden. But it's up to you. So cross. This is one way to sign cross. It's actually the only way I know, though there may be another way. I'm sure some people might just use one finger, but this is the C hand shape and it's bigger, so it looks more like a cross. Not to be confused with like the whole Hail Mary thing, which I believe you would just sign like Hail Mary. But I'm not Catholic, so I'm not sure. And like I said, this is bury. So yeah, you want to say like cross, no, none, cross, bury. You actually probably don't even need this sign. You could just say don't bury the cross. Or don't, again, escape, run away from responsibility. Alright, then that last part, we are the judge and jury. I sign this, we are the judge and jury. Now, according to the internet, jury is actually this. This is another way to say group. I've kind of gone with the more circular thing because that's what I was taught in class, to do group more like this. But a lot of people do it like this. I don't know if it's because it's faster, maybe. And again, since I'm not an expert, I can't tell you what's the more correct way, and I don't know if there is a more correct way. I think this is just how you do it. So, jury. I didn't bother to do this part twice, though, in the video, because I thought I didn't have time, and that's going to look confusing. However, maybe on second thought, it would have been better to do it twice, just to avoid any confusion about what kind of group I meant. So yeah, maybe just do it twice. But as you can see, like, if you're like me, you have a hard time repeating the same signs without messing them up, then it would be easy to mess that line up. Anyway, we're done. And yes, this did take almost an hour because of all my thinking that I was doing. So, I mean, I hope that you realize that this is difficult. All that cognitive processing. Alright, I hope that this at least did help you understand a little bit more kind of what interpreting students have to like think about when we try to do stuff. And this is just a short song. Imagine if this was like a whole video of a concept you're not even that familiar with. So it is challenging, and if you are thinking about getting into interpreting, you're gonna have to get used to thinking this way and to like question if there's ever any one right way to say something. So I hope you at least got that from the video. I tried to do my best to do the signs correctly, so I hope that I did. And again, vocabulary is something you should look up on your own, because I'm going to use like maybe one way to do it, if I even do it right, because I mean everybody makes mistakes, and there are many signs for some things. So, and you may not even like the one I use, there might be a better one for you. Or if you could even live somewhere where it's just more common to use a different one. So it's good to learn a couple different ways to sign pretty much everything if you can. And then, to just double check form, because things like mercy, mercy. Sometimes the form is a little flexible and other times it's not. And some stuff is directional, which isn't always something that the ASL dictionary tells you, or it doesn't usually show it, so there are challenges there. So just be aware that, again, there are some things you need to ask somebody in person. I'm hoping I didn't use any of those signs in this video, but I might have and just not remembered it, so that's something to be aware of too. Alright, and I think that's all. Maybe if I stop it now, it'll be under an hour still. So, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you want to request any more tutorials, keeping in mind that, again, it's not an expert opinion, it's an opinion of somebody who's trying to translate it themselves. But I'm still happy to talk about it with you guys. Of course, any regular song requests, please leave below, and I will see you next time. More stuff is on the way. Bye.